I was thinking the other day about what album could I talk about before I go off for my summer break. The series of great recordings, as you know if you've been following these videos, has been very varied and wide, from Radiohead to Bach and Beethoven, Sibelius, Ravel, Schubert, Dark Side of the Moon, all sorts of albums. And just as I was sort of going through in my mind, a message came through from my colleague AJ in London, and he had one of our friends visiting him. When I say friends, he's one of our customers who's become a friend, and he was popping over to see the new London showroom, which actually is looking really nice. And I said to AJ, ask Dom what album he thinks I should do. And the answer came back, Johnny Cash. There was no particular album, just the name Johnny Cash. Now I have to say, Johnny Cash is not the first person who would come to mind. But I do remember hearing in several trade hi-fi shows a track that he did called Hurt. So I looked up this track again and found it to be on his album called The American 4, and it's part of a series of songs he did. I did 5 of them, if I believe that correctly, for a label called American Recordings. Now this was a project, I think it was pulled together by Rick Rubin. Now I do not stand to say I'm in any way an expert on Johnny Cash or this particular topic, but as you will see, I am very passionate about why I think this is a really great recording. And so when I was looking to do my research, I saw that this album, American 4, The Man Comes Around, was his 67th album. Can you imagine that? 67 studio albums, not compilations or anything like that. And it was released in November 2002, and he was very ill when he was recording it. He was almost blind, and some of the recording sessions got broken off because he had to go back into hospital and then was released again. And it's, you know, a remarkable work. But before I talk about the album itself, maybe just a couple of words on Johnny Cash. I mean, there are lots of great videos, films, books and documentaries on that, so I'm going to leave it to the experts to talk about him. But just for those who may not know who he is or have heard of him, Johnny Cash was born in 1932. He died in 2003 at the age of 71, less than a year after this album was released in November 2002. He was born into a very poor cotton farmer's family. I think they'd moved there during the Great Depression. This was really in the major years of the Great Depression. And he would actually work in the cotton fields from the age of 5. So yes, he saw a side of America, a rural, in Flemish we call that landelijke America. And it made a massive and very long-lasting impression of him. Now, interestingly, his career didn't take off until the mid-20s. So this would have been around in the mid-1950s, so 1957, something like that. And I find it interesting because before then, when he was only 7, Johnny Cash's brother, his older brother, Jack, died in a terrible, terrible sawmill accident. And Johnny Cash, he didn't die instantly. It took, a number of days. And this seems to have made a very long-lasting impression on him. Now, when I was 14, going on 15, my brother, my older brother, was killed in a car crash. And I can say that had a really massive impact on me, much more than I even realized at the time. And so I can kind of understand that the feelings, and he talked about apparently in various interviews and books about feeling guilt about his brother's accident, tragic accident. And I think that comes through in his songs, and especially in this album, as we will talk about, because let's say a lot of Johnny Cash's music covers these themes of sorrow and redemption and tribulation. And it comes back again and again, and it's very, very prominent in this album. So when he recorded this album, his second wife, he's married 35 years, June Carter Cash, was still alive, but she died on the 15th of May 2003, just before Johnny Cash died. He died 4 months later in September. So you can imagine in 2002, Johnny Cash in poor health, sitting down with Rick Rubin to record this album. It must have been a very, very special time. Now let's go to the album itself. It has 15 tracks if you're getting the CD, but the original LP, I think it was a double LP, and it had a different series of tracks, so there can be some differences. I will try and get hold of the LP actually, because I think it's an interesting idea to do so. But it opens with Johnny Cash reading from the Book of Revelations, and it's clear that Johnny Cash throughout his life was religious. And so the theory that these themes of redemption and the religion and life ever after and redeeming one's soul and sin keep coming back, as I said earlier. And this opening, I think, is really interesting because he's reading also from sort of the references from the New and the Old Testament. And apparently the song, which was written by him, called The Man Comes Around, was inspired by a dream he had of Queen Elizabeth II. I don't know much about this. I just read this bit on Wikipedia, about a thorn tree in a whirlwind. And it makes a wonderful opening. I'm always intrigued about how you open an album. And this is how he opens it. Listen to this.
And I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. One of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. There's a man going round taking names, and he decides who to free. And
now, that is classic Johnny Cash. You've got the single guitar, his sort of spoken type singing, and he's writing on the subject matter. Now, on this album, he must have chosen what he wanted, and there obviously were a lot of songs on his mind, and so he was obviously choosing songs that he felt were important to do. And that for opening song is really it's a very interesting lyrically song, but I was always thinking, well, from a religious point of view, why would he do that? But it's evident it's a really good way of opening it and setting the scene, because the second track, Hurt, the very famous track, is so powerful, and it's the one that probably most people know. Now, Trent Reznor, who wrote it, the sort of front man for the Nine Inch Nails, he was asked if Johnny Cash could do it, and it seems that Trent thought that this would be some kind of cheapening or somehow lose its impact. But actually, when Trent finally heard what Johnny Cash had done with it, he said, "Oh, that guy's taken my song. It's no longer mine. It's going to be remembered as Johnny Cash's song. And that is a very nice way of putting it, actually, because I was listening to the Nine Inch Nails version this morning and then again to this one. And what Johnny Cash does here is just so damn powerful. Well, if you don't know it, I strongly advise you to listen to it. But even listen to it in the context of the album. When we talk about great recordings, they're often recordings where lots is taken out, where you strip down the elements that are not needed and you leave only what makes an impact. Let me just play you just a touch.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, the old familiar sting. Try to kill it all away, but I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Everyone I know goes away in the end, and you could have it all. My empire of dirt, I will let you down. I will make you hurt.
It's just so damn powerful. And for me, I started the Great Recording series on the basis that the LP or the CD, the recording, had to be great content, original, powerful, take you on an emotional journey, and really well recorded. And this is really well recorded. It's really spooky. You won't get it on this video, but when I'm sitting in this room and my eyes are closed and I'm listening to Johnny Cash singing this, indeed some of the other songs on this album, it's so powerful. It's almost overwhelming. He's right there in front of me. If I toe the loudspeakers out slightly, he's further back, sort of in between. But when I toe them in to get the perfect triangle, he's just in front of me. I could just touch him. And those guitars are so beautiful. They're so simple. The build that you noticed in the chorus there is there. And it goes through each time it comes around. But it's not over dramatic. It's not exaggerated. And this is what makes it a great recording and great producing. I don't know how much influence that Rick Rubin had on the arrangements, but I guess he must have had some. Anyway, let's move on, because I can't cover all the songs because it's 15 and it would take forever. But Johnny Cash wrote a song called Give My Love to Rose, and that's track number 3. And I want you to listen to the phrasing of the opening of the guitar, because when I was 11 years old, I, like a lot of young boys and girls, picked up a guitar and started to learn to play the guitar. I was playing the viola at the time in an orchestra, a youth orchestra, and also I was playing a little bit of piano as well. But I picked up the guitar, and you come across the books like the Alan Lomax songbook and stuff, and this kind of picking is what we would try and achieve, or I would try and achieve. But I want you to listen closely to the phrasing of this opening, because you'll see, well, let me just play it to you and then you'll see it for yourself.
I found him by the railroad track this morning. I could see that he was nearly dead. I knelt down beside him and I listened, just to hear the words the dying fella said. He said they let me out of prison, out in Frisco.
Now, obviously, this song progresses into the story that Cash is telling us. But that phrasing is wonderful, isn't it? And if you listen to the guitar on the right, it's doing just enough to fill in. It's not exaggerating. It's not saying, look at me, listen to me, aren't I a great player? It's just minimalism, which is what I think is fantastic. And this song was originally written in 1957. So you can imagine the 70-year-old Johnny Cash playing this as an old man. And when he was in his mid-20s, probably this vision of death, which keeps coming back, as I said, in his songs, and redemption and contemplating his people's lives. Yeah, I don't know what influenced it. I've made some hypotheses here. Other people will correct me, I'm sure. But it's so damn powerful when he's singing it at the age of 70 and he's in ill health. Now, the next track on the album is Bridge Over Troubled Water. I struggle with this. Not quite sure why it's on this selection. Because the song Bridge Over Troubled Water is such a big song, and it's got, it really involves the arrangements and all the things and the strings, and they've had kind of a string effect on this album, on this production, but it doesn't really do much for me. It's a bit too busy. Of course, there are some very interesting harmonies, and I've forgotten the name of the singer. Whoops! No doubt AJ will pop it in the credits here under subtitles. And apparently, she won an award for the harmonies on this track. Now, I know it's really difficult harmonizing with a voice such as Johnny Cash's, but I don't quite get it. It's personal taste, but the next track, I Hung My Head, which is written by Sting, is an absolute masterpiece. Now, from what I understand, Sting wrote it because when he was a young boy growing up, he was really into cowboys and all of those sort of the images of the Western, and he just wanted to write a Western song. And if you listen to his Symphonies album, there's an orchestral version of this, which by him, and it's in its original time signature of 9/8, which is really complicated to count. Actually, if you listen to his version, and you listen to where the bass is playing and how it's structured, it's a really complex. It works. It's very effective. But here, again, Rick Rubin, Johnny Cash, they've simplified the whole thing. They've brought it into 4/4 to make it sound a lot more contemporary. And I find that really, it's just a marvelous rendition of a wonderful song. And again, the subject matter is, well, accidental death and redemption. It's incredible.
Early time to kill. I borrowed Jeb's rifle and sat on the hill. I saw a lone rider crossing the plain. I drew a bead on him to practice my aim. My brother's rifle went off in my hand. A shot rang out across the land. The horse he kept running, the rider was dead. I hung my head, I hung my head. I set off running to wake from the dream. My brother's
Now the story continues, and it's also a demonstration of the genius of Sting. I will do a great recordings on an album of his called The Last Ship, because I think that's an absolute masterpiece that is often under the radar. And this song, brilliantly executed here by Johnny Cash, is a masterpiece. The imagery, the simplicity, the fact that Sting uses so few words to picture the whole incident. It's really marvelous stuff. Now the next track is the 6th track. It's The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, written by Ewan MacColl. And I know a little bit about this track because when I was living in Beckenham as a young man, I was brought up and I was born in Beckenham, actually, famous for David Bowie and for lots of musicians. A friend of mine was called Cullum MacColl. Well, he was a friend of a friend, shall we say. I helped them out organising something for a gig with some equipment and stuff. And I went to Cullum MacColl's house. Now, Cullum is the son of Ewan MacColl and Peggy Seeger. And he wanted to thank me, so he gave me an LP of his dad's. And what I found interesting was he also explained to me about the song The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. That he said that his mother was doing a tour of America, and she needed a song to close the evening, to close the set, that would sort of, a closer. So his father wrote this song. And when you hear this song, I think the power, the passion, the reason it is such a great song and that so many singers can do this incredibly well and bring it their own story of it. I think the power in this song is loneliness. I think the power is that he wrote it when she was in America, when she was away from home and he was on his own. And when you're on your own, you do have this distance that makes the heart grow fonder, is the classic phrase. I remember a little poem by Leonard Cohen. It went, "With Annie gone, whose eyes to compare with the morning sun? Not that I did compare, but I do compare now that she's gone." And I think The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face has that element to it. And at this stage in his life, reflecting back, it must have been, well, you can feel why Johnny Cash is such a genius.
The first time ever I saw your face, I thought the sun rose in your eyes, and the moon and the the stars were the gifts you gave. To the dark and the endless sky, my love. And the first time.
And what I like about this particularly is it's like he's taking it so slowly, he's letting the space in the lyrics so much. You can almost imagine Ewan MacColl writing as a letter the first time and then thinking. And it is just like a letter, in my opinion. And I think that this version is very, very special indeed. Now, the next track is called Personal Jesus, written by Martin Gore of Depeche Mode. And I think it's one of the most powerful songs on the Howl album. Again, it really shows how Johnny Cash can pick up somebody else's song from a different genre and just make it so powerful, make it so much his own. I'm just going to give you a quick blast of it because it's so amazing.
Your own personal Jesus, someone to hear your prayers, someone who cares. Your own personal Jesus, someone to hear your prayers, someone who's there. Feeling unknown and you're all alone, flesh and bone by the telephone. Lift up the receiver, I'll make you a believer.
Just great lyrics, aren't they? Absolutely marvellous. I mean, I know the song from Depeche Mode, but never really heard the lyrics this way. Again, Johnny Cash is able to bring them and make them alive. Marvellous, marvellous stuff. The next track is In My Life, the Lennon-McCartney song, written when they were very young, sung by an old man. And it's incredible because obviously it's a good choice. It's a good choice. It's not really his style of guitar playing.
There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all.
You see, he goes, some are dead and some are living in my life. He really creates the perfect phrasing. Some are dead and some are living in my life. And that's what makes him such a great singer, such a great arrangement. You get the traditional guitar sound from obviously Paul McCartney's guitar style in that track, but he makes it his own. The next track is really back to Johnny Cash as we know him. It's a song called Sam Hall. It's attributed, I don't know why, to Tex Ritter. Maybe someone can tell me, because basically it's based on a song that in the early 18th century, around 1701, was known as Jack Hill, someone who I think was hung for stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, sort of a Robin Hood type character. And Sam Hall, I love this. I love the way that the angry side of Johnny Cash comes out, because we know that Johnny Cash also was someone with very strong, say, political beliefs and national beliefs, and the way he tried to defend the sort of the Native Americans' position and things like that. So you get this feeling here when he sings the word "damn your eyes." Have a listen to this. Classic country opening.
Well, my name, it is Sam Hall, Sam Hall. Yes, my name, it is Sam Hall, it is Sam Hall. My name, it is Sam Hall, and I hate you one and all, and I hate you one and all. Damn your eyes. I killed a man, they said, so they said. I killed a man, they said, so they said.
This is a typical folk song, and it's, ironically, you can imagine Ewan McCall and Peggy Seeger singing this in the folk clubs, and you know, obviously Pete Seeger beforehand. And I think it is a song that was really refound by Alan Lomax. I'm not sure, but anyway, it is definitely a really classic song, and it's given a classic treatment. But where he sings "damn your eyes," and as that progresses, it becomes even tougher and tougher, and you get that sense. Again, it's the topic of you know, death and murder and accidental death and redemption. It comes back. Now, on any album where we are contemplating our own mortality, you have to imagine that the song "Danny Boy" would actually be part of this collection somewhere. And again, our friend Johnny Cash's rendition is really special, unique, very church-like, very hymn-like. You can imagine even as though a funeral. It's often sung in a funeral.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. From glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses fallen. It's you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so.
That is marvellous, isn't it? Absolutely marvellous. Again, the timing, the phrasing, an old man's voice, missing his friend, his son, his brother, whoever. It's a universal story. And although it's all about death, sorrow, redemption, the songs are so different that actually it is an album you can listen to without getting depressed and miserable. There is a beauty within it that lifts. And, you know, their version of Desperado is extremely, you know, is really good as well. I mean, let's just try a little bit of this. Just nice contrast and instrumentation. just lifting it.
Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one, but I know that you've got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. Don't you draw the queen of diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able.
You see, he's just so able to sing that song and just make it a very lovely, melancholic song. But again, the arrangements are simple. It's so very, very nice. Now, the next track is I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Of course, it's a Hank Williams song. And there we've got a duet with Nick Cave. And Nick Cave's voice is really refreshing in comparison when it contrasts with Johnny Cash's voice. And then, of course, we have another one called Tear-Stained Letter, written by Cash again many years earlier. And there's some really interesting things about the Tear-Stained Letter, because if you think of how a normal folk musician, guitarist would accompany that kind of song, or any song, you know, you go from your G to C to D to F, whatever, your chord progressions, and then to A minor, and you, with each change in the melody, da da dee ba bom, the chords will then change. But if you listen to this, and I'll just play a little bit of the opening, you will notice how the band hold on a chord whilst the melody is going on, and they resist the change of chord until maybe the last beat of the phrase. And for me, that's what genius is, not just in the arrangements, but also in this ability to hold back. It's an upbeat number, although it's a tear-stained letter. It's not so much sad as angry and sad at the same time. But let me just play you this and you hear.
I'm gonna write a tear-stained letter. I'm gonna mail it straight to you. I'm gonna bring back to your mind what you said about always being true, about our secret hiding places, being daily satisfied. I can see you sitting and reading it while you hang your head and cry. I just hope you're not so sad that you're gonna go down suicide. I'm gonna write a tear-stained letter, put it special delivery, 'cause it's gonna be full of stuff that's only known to you and me.
You see what I mean there? It's just got that way of holding and suspending the melody over the chords, and I like that very, very much. I think it adds a lot of color, and it forces you to listen to the lyrics, of course. But then we have this really, really classic Streets of Laredo, which is also known as the Dying Cowboy. And again, I remember as a young boy seeing this in the Alan Lomax songbook. And he really, really nails it, because you would expect him to. He's been singing it probably since he was born, more or less. His mum would have been singing it, I'm sure, or somebody would have done. Just such a classic.
As I walked out on the streets of Laredo, as I walked out on Laredo one day, I spied a young cowboy all wrapped in white linen, wrapped in white linen, as cold as the clay. I can see by your outfit that you are a cowboy. These words he did say.
This is a classic song. I mean, anyone of my age will know this song. And it's obviously telling the story, very similar to the stories that we've heard earlier in the album. But again, it's the way on one word he can hold that word, prolong it, and get so much emotion into it. And I think, you know, when I was playing it, you know, dung bunga dung dunga dung, you just sang it. It's like something you had to get through to get to the end, so you could start the next song. Here he's giving it all the time in the world and all the spacing, and you can, the subtleties of the meaning, that layer below the lyric, come through beautifully. And this one song, this last song, I thought, well, I can't imagine why he chose it, but I'm so glad he did, because it's a Vera Lynn song from 1939. I can't remember who actually wrote it. I made a note of it here somewhere. Yeah, Hughie Charles and Ross Parker in 1939, and it's the 6th of June today, and I'm recording this on the 80th, this video on the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. And this is a song that they would have been singing, or the people on the shore would have been singing it to them as the soldiers left to cross the channel and arrive on the Normandy beaches, to all the bloodshed and everything there. And I think it's poignant. I think it's really poignant that he chose this song to end the album. There was another album coming, but he wouldn't have known that necessarily, that, you know, this is the last album that he made whilst he was still, he released whilst he was still alive. All the other songs which he may have recorded at this same time as this were released posthumously. So this We'll Meet Again, the Vera Lynn song, Johnny Cash style. Let's see if I can get that to start.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. And will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them that I won't be long, and they'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Yeah, we'll meet again. I don't know where, and I don't know when.
Again, the master of timing, the master of phrasing. And this mastery of phrasing, this mastery of timing, you find it in jazz, you find it in rock, you find it in pop music when you're lucky. And it's there in great performances in classical music too. So if you have been, as always, thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the music.